Jacob, merci encore à tout le monde de l'invitation aujourd'hui. Tu m'entends bien?
Oui,
Tout est parfait? OK, parfait.
vous êtes là.
Um, well, I'm going to echo Bob Masterson. You just took about 5 minutes of my speech, so I don't know, Jacob, I might fast track it, or you're going to hear about the IRA again. That's for sure. Well, first, I just want to say that today I'm here on a traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people in Ottawa. My name is Bob Laroque, first-time presenter, Jacob, like they're saying, and then you said, of course, the president and CEO of the CFA. It's been about 2.5 years, so it went really quickly. I'm glad to be here today and share our sectors, where we are and where we're going. For those of you who kind of not necessarily know CFA, we represent all of the transportation fuel in Canada. So going from refining to terminals to gas stations. Canada, we produce and deliver 95%, so we're pretty much self-reliant, and we want to keep it that way, which is something that we are concerned about moving forward. And Paul, I can't agree with you more on one of your prediction that energy security and resiliency is definitely going to be on the table, I think, in 2023, way more than it was in the past. So first, I'm just going to start with highlights for 2022. Like everyone else, with the tragic war in Ukraine and all of the repercussion that had worldwide on the markets, even though we're self-producing in Canada, we do rely on crude and price impact North America. So we saw a lot of swings in gas and diesel prices. In certain provinces, it was over $2 a liter. We saw a lot of consumer engagement. The inflation numbers, and honestly, I think we're going to see that continuing in 2023. The global diesel market is very, very tight. The US lost some refining capacity during COVID. So that's going to continue moving forward. Number two, and I know we talked about regulation, but I think I had to speak today that after 6 years of working with the federal government, the clean fuel regulation was published last July. And that was a major milestone. It's going to set up that regulatory process, if you wish, till 2030. It's a 15% reductions in carbon intensity. There's a new tool that I think people should be aware of, the life cycle analysis fuel model. I think it's going to be used moving forward for potentially hydrogen, also for incentives, which is transparent and provides some certainty. So that was a good thing. And also a new credit market, which leads to my RRA conversation a little bit later on, Jacob. So all of those are very important for us in 2023. And there was a lot of other regulation, I think, that I would like to touch based on that were not finalized in 2022, but we'll be seeing some advancements in 2023, and I'll talk about that a little bit. From our sectors, investments, we're continuing to invest into low carbon transportation fuels. We're following our Driving to 2050 vision. I think, Christopher, you were mentioning about all energies are important. We cannot agree with you more. We do not see one single source of energy for the whole transportation sector. Yes, we're focusing on light duty vehicles with the ZEV mandate, but let's not forget that we also have marine, we have aviation, rail, heavy duty, transport. So all of those are all critical moving forward. And our members just last year announced over $8 billion in investments, 10 megatons of reduction on a year-to-year basis, 10,000 indirect and direct job, and that's from coast to coast to coast. We've seen hydrogen project in St. John. We've seen co-processing project in Burnaby. We're seeing just yesterday, the Imperial Oil $720 million announcements of renewable diesel in Alberta, coupled with hydrogen and CCUS. So as you can see, those are all major investments. And we're looking forward to finalizing all of those in productions in Canada. But like Bob Masterson was saying, all those announcements came last year. Suddenly in August, the IRA came out. And I cannot stress as much as Bob said, it was a total game changer. And I think I would like to add to Bob, I totally agree with the certainty, the transparency. And one of the major changes was before the IRA, I think Canada was competing from a capital investment perspective. We had the SIF funding, the Clean Fuel Fund, we had some ITCs, But the IRA on top of that incorporated a production tax credit. And those operating tax credits are very, very different. We don't typically do that in Canada, and they're a game changer. I mean, we've been working hard last year to inform the government. The gap analysis that Bob was talking about for his members, we did the same thing in Canada, and we're continuing to work. So looking forward at 2023, yes, it's going to be the IRA for the next 2 months, 3 months, whenever the budget comes out. Lots of those investments are being reevaluated. And a lot of times we hear the government saying, well, we have the clean fuel regulation, your carbon, and what people don't understand is that the IRA also is the product itself has to be made in the US. So you can take all of the Canadian feedstock, send it to the United States, make it there, bring it back to Canada, and access all of the clean fuel regulation and other credit markets that we have here. So the production does not have to be in Canada. And if Canada does not respond in the federal budget, we will be reliant on US low carbon fuels. And is that where we want to be in 2030? Do we want to rely on the United States for 10 to 15% of our fuel in Canada versus now, which is almost zero? So we're working hard to not only from a jobs production perspective, but also from a reliability and resiliency and security of supply perspective. So huge opportunity for Canada. Like Bob, everyone else, we saw Minister Freeland, clean energy. We're just looking forward to the details, and hopefully Canada responds accordingly. Number two, lots of regulations that not only the clean fuel regs for us, but we saw the ZEV mandate proposed regulation at the end of December. The emissions, oil and gas emissions cap will or may not have an impact on us. The electricity standard that Francis was talking about will or will not have an impact on us. The output-based system from a competitiveness perspective. So all of those regulations are continuing, and we're going to see, I think, in 2023, some final proposal on those regulations. And depending on all the linkages between all of them, Jacob, it will have a serious impact on investments. And just to give you an idea, there's a credit market on the ZEV, there's a credit market on CFR. They both cover electric charging station. How do they work together? Are they stackable or not? Those are all kinds of questions and uncertainty that people are looking into. One of the exciting is hydrogen. I think we started talking about hydrogen today, and I think, Paul, you mentioned it earlier. Hydrogen, yes, has totally accelerated. Same thing for us. People may not know this, but we produce about 90% of the hydrogen currently in Canada. So we have a lot of opportunities to lower our carbon intensity. We have a lot of opportunities to be a hydrogen supplier, but there's a lot of additional work that needs to be done. One of them that we think is critical that could lead to how we incentivize is we need to stop moving from colors and moving to carbon intensity. And I think we need to use the clean fuel regulation transparent tool and bring in all of the hydrogen technologies. So then no matter who you are and how you produce it, once you can evaluate your carbon intensity, then you could lead to some of the incentives, for example, that the IRA is providing. So I think that's critical for us, and we want to see NRCan accelerate that tool with Environment Canada. Another one, we heard about it earlier, it's codes and standards. I think we all are involved in some way, shape, or form with codes and standards on hydrogen. For us, on the transportation side, it's critical. So we'd like to see those advance for the market. And then on top of that is just finalizing some of the incentives, either the IRA, but we saw the ITC for hydrogen being consulted on before Christmas. So we're looking forward to how that's going to happen. So lots of work happening on hydrogen, and I think you'll see additional investments, and we're very excited about that. I'm going to touch a little bit on energy security also and reliability. Just recall for everyone that back in October, November 2021, we had the BC flooding. And, you know, it's been a year, so maybe people don't quite remember, but when the railway and systems went down, the TMX went down, people had to ration out gas and diesel in British Columbia for about 30 days. But it also showed the resiliency of our current system. Well, we were able to navigate those 20, 30 days and make sure that we provided fuel to Canadians and emergency services. And we are concerned about the future. we are concerned about making sure that energy security and resiliency is top of mind when we're having conversation with the government. And so we're working hard with some of our colleagues on the phone today to bring that up with the federal government and provincial governments. So when we are having conversation on the energy transformation or climate policies, that energy security is also part of the conversation. So it's going to be a very interesting year on that aspect. And lastly, I agree with Paul too on the consumer side and consumer information awareness. I think consumers are going to play an even bigger role moving forward, raising how they feel and the impact of energy prices, both from the transportation side and others. So we felt, and we did a lot of consumer awareness polls, and we need to do a much better job informing Canadians of their options, of where we're going, about the infrastructure. So we're going to be looking at a major campaign to do some consumer awareness and education in the next couple of years to make sure that Canadians understand where the transportation sector is going. So that's kind of where I'm at. Jacob, I think I have a couple of minutes, so I'm willing to take some questions, but continuing a very exciting year for the fuel sector and transportation fuels in 2023, and looking forward to working with everyone. Thanks again for organizing this. I really appreciated learning from everyone, and looking forward to some questions and discussion.
So on the hydrogen front, my sense is, do you have a sense of how well informed the general public is on it, and how much more we need to do on the front? I mean, it's often held out as a big game changer in terms of reducing greenhouse gases, but at the same time, it's a fuel, it's a technology that's been around forever, that we haven't quite managed to tap to its full potential. There's potential safety concerns. There's a lot of work to do with the public to get them accustomed to what this is, and actually creating a market for it. What is your sense of the collaboration that's going on there, and what more we need to do?
I think that's a very good question, Jacob, and it's something we're working on right now. I completely agree with you that we need to do more education with the public on hydrogen, for exactly what you just said, either safety or access, or the type of how it can be used, if you wish. On that, we are working, and I think you will hear from Yvette a bit later. So we are working with the Hydrogen Fuels Association, with some of our partners on that. It's part of our campaign, to be honest, because hydrogen is like renewable diesel or ethanol or any other types of fuel that can be used in the transportation sector. I think the government has some tools. They have some clean fuel awareness program. They have the zero emissions awareness. So I think we need an industry to use those tools and to work together to inform public. As far as demand, that's another big one. I think that's another big that we're looking at, is this industrial use. We heard the steel sector, we're working Sarnia, Hamilton. Is there a linkages there that maybe that could work? So I don't want to say, I think hydrogen also is going to have a big play in the industrial sector. And it's just a matter of how do we, first of all, make it at a lower carbon intensity. I mean, we will need CCUS, for example, in Ontario. Bob Masterson mentioned that we're a little bit behind from Alberta there. So the whole demand part, I think, Jacob, needs to be worked on at the same time as the production part. And I think there's some, we need to accelerate that. I think we're behind.
That's terrific. My sense of hydrogen, getting more accustomed to it and used to it, and hearing ever more about it, is from a Canadian perspective, if we can get beyond the colors, as you suggest, and talk more about the carbon intensity. If it's zero carbon, shouldn't really matter what color it is. And from that perspective, it's interesting because I would dare say there's a thread of national unity in all of that. In that the Western hydrocarbon producing areas, there is an ability to make hydrogen their way. And in other regions of Canada that have large hydropower and other renewables, there's ways of doing it another way. And if you can string it all together and pull it all together and feed a growing market for it, this should be something that should be very exciting for all of us.
I agree. And you said it bang on for us. Hydrogen is a solution to net zero, and it's not a color. And I think any types of hydrogen that reduces carbon should be considered. And it's not the case right now. It's very polarizing. It's very regionally based. And I think we need to do a better job across Canada.
Well, it's one of those interesting energy areas where everybody on this call can play in the future.
Exactly.
And so some great optimism there after some cautious remarks about the IRA. Well put and well heeded. Thank you.